I came home from work on a Tuesday and my key would not turn in my own front door. Someone had changed the locks on the house I paid for, and I had no idea it was about to get so much worse. My name is Rachel and I lived in a small brick house in Columbus, Ohio with my husband Mark. I worked as a dental hygienist and Mark worked at a logistics company downtown. We had been married for 4 years and bought that house together 2 years earlier, both our names on the deed and the mortgage. It was not a big house, 3 bedrooms and a small backyard, but it was ours. We had painted the kitchen yellow ourselves on a weekend when we had no money for a contractor, and planted a maple tree in the front yard the same week we moved in. That house held every ordinary happy memory of our marriage: birthday dinners, quiet Sunday mornings, the sound of our dog running across the hardwood floors. Mark's mother, Diane, lived across town in a condo she never seemed to love. She had never fully accepted me, thinking her son had married beneath him since I came from a family with far less money than hers. She made small comments at every holiday about how I organized the kitchen or raised our son Tyler, who was 3 at the time. I brushed most of it off because Mark always told me not to take her seriously. I trusted that our home, at least, was a place she could not touch. I was wrong. It started small. Diane began stopping by unannounced while Mark was at work, letting herself in with a spare key we had given her years earlier for emergencies. I would come home to find my pantry rearranged, my son's clothes folded a different way, notes left on the counter about how I should be feeding Tyler more vegetables. I asked Mark to talk to her about boundaries. He said, "She means well, she just does not know how to show it." I let it go, because I loved him and I did not want to start a war with his mother. Then Tyler started saying strange things. One evening he told me, "Grandma says this is going to be her house soon." I laughed it off in front of him, but that night I could not sleep. I asked Mark what that could mean, and he said his mother liked to joke around and I was reading too much into a child's imagination. I wanted to believe him. 3 weeks later, Mark told me his mother had early-stage heart trouble and needed help around her condo. He started spending more evenings there, sometimes not answering his phone. I understood, family is family, and I tried to be supportive. What I did not understand was why Diane kept asking Mark for copies of our house paperwork, saying she wanted to help us refinance and save money. Mark trusted her since she used to work at a bank. Every time he brought home another folder for her, I felt a strange twist in my stomach, but I told myself I was being paranoid. The real shock came on a Tuesday afternoon. I left work early because Tyler had a fever at daycare. When I pulled into our driveway, my key would not turn. I tried again, twisting harder, checking that I had the right key on my ring. Nothing worked. I knocked, and to my surprise, Diane opened the door. "What are you doing here?" I asked, confused, still holding Tyler on my hip. "This is my house now, dear," she said, calm as anything, like she was telling me the weather. "Mark and I worked it out. You will need to speak with him." I felt the ground tilt under me. "What are you talking about? Where is Mark?" "He is at work. We can discuss this like adults once he is home," she said, and shut the door in my face. I stood on my own porch, my son crying against my shoulder, locked out of the house I had painted, the house I had paid a mortgage toward every single month for 2 years. I called Mark 11 times before he finally picked up. "Rachel, I can explain," he said, his voice tight. "Explain what your mother locked me out of my own home. It is complicated. She helped us refinance and somehow her name ended up on the new deed too. I did not think she would actually do something like this." "You signed papers without telling me," I said, my voice shaking. You gave her our documents and never once mentioned it to me. He went quiet on the phone, and that silence told me everything I needed to know. I called my own mother that night from a motel room, Tyler asleep beside me on a stiff pillow, and I told her everything. I expected comfort. Instead she sighed and said, "Rachel, families go through things like this. Maybe you should try to see it from Diane's side, she is older and scared about her health." I could not believe what I was hearing. My own mother was asking me to sympathize with the woman who had locked her grandson out of his home. I called Mark's sister next, hoping for an ally. She told me, "Look, I do not want to get in the middle of this." Nobody wanted to say plainly that what Diane had done was wrong. It felt like the whole world was tilting to protect her feelings instead of mine. For 3 days I stayed at the motel with Tyler, going to work in the same clothes, feeling like a stranger in my own life. Mark came to see us once. He sat across from me and said, "I did not mean for it to go this far. I just did not want to upset her while she is sick." I looked at him and asked the only question that mattered. "Did you know she put her name on the deed before I found out, or after?" He looked down at his hands. "Before," he admitted. "About a month before." That was the moment something inside me went completely still. He had known for a month, watching me kiss him goodbye every morning while his mother quietly stole the roof over our heads. I realized then that nobody was coming to save me, not my mother, not his sister, not even my own husband. If I wanted my life back, I was going to have to fight for it myself. The next morning I called a real estate attorney I found online, a woman named Patricia who specialized in property disputes. I brought her every document I had, our original mortgage statement, our tax records, photographs of the house from the day we moved in. She listened to the entire story without interrupting, then looked at me and said, "If your name is still legally on the original mortgage and the refinance was done through fraud or without your consent, we have a very strong case." For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than despair. I felt control returning to my own hands. I filed a formal complaint against the refinance, providing proof my signature had been forged on documents Diane submitted to the bank, and I filed for a temporary order freezing any transfer of the property until the matter was resolved in court. I stopped waiting for Mark to fix what his mother had broken, and stopped waiting for anyone's permission to protect myself and my son. The investigation took nearly 4 months. The bank confirmed my signature on the refinance paperwork did not match my real signature, and that the document had been notarized through a friend of Diane's at a small local office. The forgery voided the entire transaction. The court ruled the original mortgage and deed stood, with my name restored exactly where it had always belonged. Diane faced legal consequences, and her relationship with her son was never quite the same after that. Mark and I tried counseling for a while, but something had broken that could not be repaired with apologies. I remember sitting across from him in our old kitchen, the yellow paint still on the walls, and telling him, "I needed you to choose me and our son, and you chose her comfort instead." He did not argue. He knew it was true. We separated a few months later, and I kept the house, the one I had painted, the one I had fought so hard to keep. Tyler and I still live there. The maple tree in the front yard is taller now, thick enough to give real shade in the summer. Some mornings I stand in that kitchen making his breakfast and I think about the woman who once stood locked out on her own porch, holding a crying child, wondering if she would ever get her life back. I did get it back. Every wall, every floorboard, every quiet Sunday morning, all of it is mine again, earned through nothing but my own refusal to disappear quietly. Nobody hands you your life back. Sometimes you have to take it, one locked door at a time.